Hi guys, this is Dinesh Kumar. Today we are going to see the topic toxic material in the units chemical systems. When you are entering into this topic, before itself, you want to know about the chemicals. We already studied about the chemicals, different type of chemicals, but we had experimented in the 10th and 12th standard itself. And then the first year itself, we will do the chemical analysis, but we doesn't know about that hazard due to the chemical reaction. If a chemical reacted with another chemical, it will produce a harmful gas. That gas, it will be mixed with our air. It should be continuously mutated with the another air and with our atmospheric pressure and the air having some more chemical components. It will continuously mutated. If it is mutated, it will cause a cancer for the human being. It will cause a hazard to the human being. It causes death to the human being. So the chemical, while we are handling the chemical components, we want to care that the maximum protection to them. Okay. For example, for the chemical components, if you are taken for a Bhopal disaster, it's a huge example for our India. Why they are having chemical has been plays an important role. That boiler plant has been blast. Due to that, the huge number of people have been dead due to that cause. In that area now itself, the chemical has been mutated again and again. It will affect the children while we are born. Nowadays also. So that whenever you are handling the chemical component, at most care should be taken. Okay. We want to wear the gloves and protection shoes, and then we want to wear the mask where we are using the chemical components. Chemical is very huge and it's a very dangerous one when we are used. Okay, whenever we are using the chemical in the industries or wherever you can use it, we want to carry in the utmost care. Okay, so that this unit is very important when we are working in the chemical industry. So we want to handle the chemicals with utmost care. Okay. In the chemical industries, while they are using that hazardous chemical means they want to keep a separate room for that. While we are using that, that room should be locked. It should be used by a particular expert while we are using that chemical component. It should be kept in a separate place. When you are keeping that in separate place, it should be nearer to the watering. Okay, if any chemical will react, we want to dilute it very immediate. Wherever the water supply is near to that, you want to keep that room. Okay, so that the chemical is a very important when we are working in the chemical factory. The thing here is today we are going to draw the topic in the toxic material. Toxic is nothing but it should be hazardous to the human being. When nowadays we are having a huge much of toxic material for that. For example, when you are wearing a cloth, it's a toxic material. It will cause cancer nowadays. Some of the cloth it will cause a cancer for human beings also. So while they're using the material itself, it can be causes cancer. It should be hazardous to the human being. Such material should be avoided. If you avoid such material, the human life will be prevented. Okay, so that today we are going to see the topic toxic material. Toxic material is or a substance that may cause a harm to the individual if it is enter the body. If it enters the body means it will be enter into your body in three ways. While we are breathe, or while we will taste, or while we will be enter into the tissues. We have three ways a toxic material can enter into our body. Okay, there are three different ways it will enter into your body. Toxic materials may enter into the body in different ways. These are the three ways. The ways are route of expose. It's nothing but expose is nothing but through skin. When you are exposed to the ionic radiations, it will expose on your skin. It will enter into your body. It causes a damage. When you are breathing that unavoidable, that is inhaling that the gases, it should be hazardous gases. If you breathe that, it will enter into your lungs. It will cause that huge damage on the lungs and it leads to death. The another common route is through entering the skin contact. We have already discussed, no? It will be entered in three ways. One is through skin, another one is through the breathingness, another one is through our tongue while we are eating like that. Okay. When you are working in the industry, in the chemical industry, you will be very careful on that. It will be entered in the three ways only. If you follow the safety rules and regulations, it should be avoided. Okay. The next. These are the chemical names and will cause the efforts. Okay. While we are using a methylene chloride, it will cause the mild central nervous system depressant. It's nothing but it will affect our nervous system. It will cause the headaches, nauseousness, restlessness, drowsiness, incoordination, and confusion, and cause death. Causes the skin and eye irritations. The methylene chloride causes these such of symptoms to our human body. If you are using that isopropyl alcohol in the industry, it also affects our nervous system. It will be a highly vaporable concentration because of the headaches, drowsiness, restlessness, incoordinations, and confusions. Very high exposure may result in unconscious and death. It also causes the same symptoms, but it also causes the same death also. It may be irritating through the respiratory tract. It's nothing but it will be entering into our nostril. It will irritate our lungs. It causes the eye to irritating. It will cause the eye also into irritation condition. It should be shallow or vomit. If it may causes, it will be aspiration. It will lead to the lungs. It majorly affect the lungs only. So when you are using isopropyl alcohol, you want to definitely use the mask. The next is the acetone. Acetone is nothing but it also affects the central nervous system. It also affects our headaches, drowsiness, incoordination, confusions. It also causes eye irritation. It enter into our body by swallowing. Okay, this will affect our body, but it doesn't cause the death. Up to that level, it will be manageable. If you use the safety needs and everything, it should be avoided. Our nervous system didn't get affected. Okay, when you compare to the previous methyl chloride isopropyl alcohol, acetone somewhat better when compared to that. Okay, these are the things. Chemical components will affect our human beings. Okay, the next is some other important point for the storage of toxic material includes. It's nothing but how we want to store them, where we want to store them, how we will be separate from that. These are the things. When you are using the toxic material, toxic chemical component, it should be kept in a small amount in our company. Why no? If we are having a huge amount, if it will affect our human beings, if you are banned unaccidentally, it will affect the human beings. If you are having a small amount, it will affect the human being very low level. If you are having a large amount of the toxic material, inaccidentally, if it causes a harmfulness to that person, inaccidentally, if the chemical components store on your skin, it will affect a lot. So that whenever a company is having a toxic material, it should be in a limited amount only. Okay, and then the toxic gases or chemical components, it should be kept in a separate room. Okay, it will be stored in a separate room. Okay, that container should be sealed because it will cause any leakage or any damage in the container. If a person is being exposed with the chemical, it will affect the person. Okay, so that chemical compound containing container should be stored and it should be properly sealed. If you have been sealed properly, that will doesn't cause harmful to the human being. Okay, the third point, ensure that the container should be tightly closed after the usage. And when it is should be empty, it should be closed condition only. Why no? The container is having a carried some chemical component. It should be closed. It should be closed. It should be empty. It should be closed. 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 It should be closed When we after we use that container, it should be in empty manner. But if the air will be filled with that container, if we are keeping the chemical component in separate room, the air entering the room will be very less. This air will be reacted with the container and will be produce poisonous gases. When you are opening that room, when you enter in that, the toxic gases should be respirated by a human being that will cause the death or in an accidental activity to a human being. So that used empty containers should be in closed condition only. Why it should be empty also? Yes, these are the things you want to definitely want to note. The next, the stored container at a convenient height of a handling below the eye level if possible. It's nothing but if you're handling the toxic material means we should keep the container in that possibly high low height. It's nothing but we do not handle that container at the height above our eye level. Why means when we are carrying, when we are taking the chemical component, it will be fell on our body, it will cause the damages. So that it should be kept in the eye of the level. Okay, so that injury should be avoided when you are keeping that containers in the eye level possible, if possible. Store the material with the temperature range recommended by the chemical manufacturer or supplier. It's nothing but whenever we are using the chemical component, the manufacturer will give that how we want to store the chemical, in what temperature we want to store the chemical. That should be given by the manufacturer itself. Another one thing, the manufacturer itself given that expiry date also. After that, we can't use the chemical. It will be if you use that expired chemical, it will react on some other component. It will produce the some other gases. Already it's a toxic chemical. If we react on that some other chemical component, it will produce more toxic gases on that. Okay, so that the chemical component when we are using that after the expiry date of the chemical, we won't use for the usage. Okay, then the contain spill or leakage. The toxic container should be stored in the tray made of compactable materials. For longer containers such as drums, barrels, provides around the storage area, seals or wraps or doors opening. It's nothing but we want to indicate that where we are, what are the chemical components we are there. It should be pasted on the door itself. Okay, the storage tanks are above the ground or surrounded within the tight cables of holding entire content. It's nothing but we want to store the container with the maximum protection. We want to store that with the cables also there. Recommendation applying for safety chemical storage. Ensure that the storage area is well ventilated and out of the direct sunlight. It's nothing but when you are storing the chemical component, there should be a proper ventilation should be there. If unaccidentally any hazardous event, any chemical has been reacted, that will produce a gas. That gas should be ventilated soon. Why? Because no, when a human beings enter into that, the toxic gas in and around that room means it will cause the death to that person. So that there should be a proper ventilation should be there. The next thing, the sunlight should not be directly fall on that chemical component. This is the thing we want to know that because the sunlight having the some of the radiation. If the radiation of the sunlight falls on the chemical, it will start reacting on that. It will cause the damages. Okay, so that we want to keep the chemical component with the we want to keep the chemical component from the sunlight, out of the direct sunlight. Store the toxic separate away from the processing and handling area. It's nothing but the toxic chemical component which should be kept in a separate room away from the processing or handling areas. The common people are working on that areas. No, we want to keep that when we are processing. We want to keep the chemical component handling regular handling area. Why means unaccidentally if the chemical has been fell from the container, unaccidentally a container has been fell down, it will react. It should not be a chemical component should not be in the eating area when we are taking food. That area should be separated. Okay, and protecting the equipment storage. We want to protect that chemical component. Separate storage reduces the amount of damage. It's nothing but we have already discussed that we want to keep in a separate room. It will avoid the damages causes. Okay. Why means if any accident is a fire, if a fire comes or any leakage comes, it will cause the human to death. It should be avoided if you kept in the separate room. Okay. For that, what do we have concluded from that? No, we want keep the chemical component in a separate room. It should be in the height of eye the level. It should not be kept in the above the eye level. The height we want to keep that room in the proper ventilation, and then that room the chemical component should not be directly fall on the sunlight. These are the things you want to note at that. From that only people get that we will be avoiding that harmful hazards occurring in our industries. So these are the things we want to know how to handle that in the toxic chemical in our industries. Okay, the storage area should be fire resistant and constructed from the non-combustible material. It's nothing but it should be resistant from the fire. Okay, then ensure the emergency eye washer shower stations are readily available nearby or tested regularly. It's nothing but watering supply to that area should be very nearer to that. If any chemical hazard, any chemical has been reacted, it produces gases, it will directly first affect our eye one. So if there are any irritations or games which we want to go to that watering tap near to that room, we want to wash it our hands and eyes. It should be regularly tested whether the water is coming or not. Ensure that the suitable fire extinguisher fills near up the equipment are available. It's nothing but fire extinguisher and fills is nothing but it will be avoiding the fire. It's available or not. We want to ensure like that. Okay. In this way, if we are using and handling the toxic chemical component, we will be in a very safety mode. It will avoid that hazardous gases and we will avoid that unnecessary human death, and we will avoid that unnecessarily a person has been affected by the chemical component should be avoided. It will prevent our human beings in a better life. Thank you. We will see in the next video.